It was a very transformative few years because I refused to deny myself the truth of what was really going on with me and what I really wanted. And so once I stood in my truth and I was like, okay, this is what I want, then I had to stand in integrity in my action.
Yeah.
So the be it till you see it energy is how you act in it until it actually happens.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right, Be It Babe. So here's the deal. I got my besties back on the pod. This woman is Kareen Walsh. You have maybe remember her from the first year we had the podcast. She has the best quote of "Your hustle should never become a hassle." And if your hustle is become a hassle, then you should probably call Kareen. But she and I talk a little bit about manifestation. We talk about procrastination. I love that we got to talk about how her life has evolved since the last time she was on. And I think it's so important. I like to have some of our guests come back again because their life has changed and they have shifted. And it's important for you to know that in the Be It Till You See It process, it is not like you ever make it, like nailed it. It's always evolving. We're always evolving. And so Kareen and her life and what she shares with you in today's episode is a really great example of that. So I'm so excited for you to hear that in today's episode. Here's Kareen.
All right, Be Babe, I'm so excited. We have a special interview for you. Clearly you can see we're in a special place, but we have Kareen Walsh here. You've been on the pod before, but just in case anyone hasn't listened to the episode yet or doesn't know you somehow, can you tell them who you are and what you rock at?
Sure. And first, before I even jump into that, your community is amazing. Like literally your listeners, like every time, even when I did that initial episode, I mean, the amount of people that just reach out and like want to learn more. So thank you for having me on again. Like I love our conversations.
Oh my God. So you're going to go on it and we're just going to take another sidetrack. Everyone quotes, my hustle's become a hassle.
Yeah.
Because you had said, go listen to that first episode, guys, because she says it's okay to have a hustle, it just can't become a hassle. And I was like,
it's no longer for you.
Yeah. So anyways, okay, now.
Yeah. So and basically, my purpose is, I believe, is to be a conduit to help others manifest and materialize their dreams, whether it's in life or business. I happen to be a top business strategist, coach, investor. I have my own 7-figure business I've been running for over 10 years. And I just want people to accelerate their growth by leveraging my lessons learned. And so with that, I run my consulting company called Revampologist. I have my coaching practice under my name. And then now I'm about to launch a whole new platform, on-demand coaching called Hey Kareen, which I'm super excited about.
I know, because also I remember it was not this January, but the last January. We were doing our first annual tradition of hanging out. And you're like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this thing and I'm going to call it Hey Kareen. And I was like, so, and now here we are. And Hey Kareen is a thing. So first of all, I just want to, if we can, maybe we go forward to go backwards. A lot of people have ideas and then it can take some time. And so sometimes they go, maybe it's not supposed to happen or, now looking back, this is almost 2 years in the making of just this one thing.
Yeah.
How did you navigate a 2-year-long-ish journey, and did that feel longer than you wanted? How did you kind of figure that out? Because I do think so many people go, I have this idea and then it's not happened. So I should be further along by now.
Yeah. So many things in that question. Whenever we have these big visions, right? These big goals or this aspiration, right? It's always this idea that comes to us. And then we're like, well, how do we manifest it? How do we make it happen? How does it come to life? Right. And there's so many different tracks you can take. But if you're not clear on the destination, then it's really hard to carve out a plan. And what I realized for me, so I've had several different businesses over the years. I've Some have failed, some have been successful. Like I am a idea machine. and then when I have an idea, I want to figure it out. Like I am just very solution oriented and also very strategic. But I realized that my pattern for achievement and making sure that actually comes to fruition was that I had to be clear on a part of it, not all of it, but I was like, well, let me go try this first. And then I would jump into action. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the fear of what if I fail, or what if it doesn't come into what it should be, or they sit in the feedback of others who have never done it before, and then they're convincing themselves of something that isn't true to their journey. So the differentiator with me is that just by taking that first step towards it, you know a little bit more about what's possible. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be all the things. I also give myself permission to change my mind. So you just mentioned that this has been like a 2-year concept, right? I didn't take action until this year because I allowed myself to fully bake the idea and really sit with it. Because in the past, Lesley, I had a lot of half-baked ideas out there. I literally would be like, oh, this is really cool. Let me go build this program. And I would build the program, never market it. Because I liked the building part, but I didn't care about the selling part, right? Like, and so I would be like, oh, I want to go write this book. And I finished my first book in 2017. I was like done with the journey, and then the actual putting it out into the world, I was like, meh. So there's been very different learning curves for me on the full picture that I had to realize I had to visualize the full picture. I had to start to think about, okay, if I do this thing, and then how am I putting it out into the world? And like, what's the purpose of putting it out into the world? And what's the attention I want from it? Yeah. And to follow through completely on the vision. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I do think I have several half-baked ideas out there.
So many, because we're idea machines.
Right. And we do take action.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask you, from what you just said, is how do we know that we're baking an idea versus like procrastinating, tweaking? Like, I'm just going to tweak it a little bit more. I'm still noodling. Yeah. Like, how do we know we're like, it's still that the baking is the action of that idea versus the procrastination?
Yeah, sure. So procrastination, I believe, shows up in something you don't really want. If you really want it, you will take action towards it, in my opinion, right? Like if you are someone who really wants to bring this thing into your life, you will sit in procrastination for a period of time, sometimes just to test yourself, do I really want it? Yeah. But most of the time, it's you don't. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, it didn't happen. I keep procrastinating. If you even call yourself a procrastinator, there are people who have to have pressure to act. Mm-hmm. Like they need a deadline. Yeah. They need to know someone's waiting for it. Yeah. They need to feel like something's going to be lost if they don't do it. Like there's a true procrastinator energy like that exists, which is really about, I need tension to show up. And generally that tension is coming from someone else.
Yeah. They're creating stress to
follow through. Yeah. But generally it's because they don't really want to do that thing. Mm. When you are coming from an innate place of like, I want this thing to come out into the world, you will literally do anything possible to at least try. Like you really will if you're truly aligned in that way. It's hard to get to that point, I think, if you don't do that inner work that we talk about all the time, where it's like, I'm just being true to myself. Like, that's a great idea, but do I really want to?
I think you're right. For the people in my group, I did a whole webinar on procrastination. So I had to do some research. I'm like, okay, well, what is procrastination?
Yeah, what'd you find out?
So one of the things I found is like, if you are a procrastinator, it also could be that you haven't figured out what you are procrastinating on is aligned with the goal that you have. So you haven't really attached your why to it. Yeah. And so that makes sense what you're saying. Of course you don't want to do something if it's not part of the thing that you're doing. And so truly baking an idea is actually like going through like, what do I want from this? Why am I doing this? How does it align with all these other things? And I think there's a difference between putting it on the ideas board and just going, I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to do that someday versus spending in time each week or even more each morning, like really thinking about what this idea is and who it's for. Yeah. Yeah. And I think even thinking or meditating or journaling on it can be action.
Connecting to it though, right? Yeah. So the reason everything that I have learned from, right, in the doing, that I realized I wanted to take more time to bake my vision now, is that I no longer have the time to waste. And I really wanted to make sure that when I do put effort, when I do put investment, when I actually bring people together for it, when I, like the whole effort behind it, time is of such value to me right now because there's so much that I'm doing that I wanted to make sure that when I launched this, I had the right strategy. It sat well within me. Like I felt connected with it to follow through. And now it is crazy to actually receive the test version of this platform and be like, oh my God, it's even more than I dreamt of. Because
I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, so it's even more. It's even more. And I'm super excited.
So is it okay we let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, okay. Let's let people know.
So Kareen has created an app.
Yes.
And it's called Hey Kareen. Hey Kareen.
It's like it's called Hey Kareen because how you goes Hey Siri or Hey Alexa and you start making commands. This is your on-demand business coaching platform.
Yeah, with your amazing advice.
With my strategies, methodologies, everything in the back.
And I actually haven't seen it because even though we use the same app developer, I was at his house. Yeah. He's like, do you want to see? And I was like, of course I want to see. And even though I introduced you to him, he's like, oh, wait a minute. We have a rule. We don't show things. And I was like, well, that is such a lucky. I'm going to show it to you guys. I can't wait to see it. And I think that's also to go back to your ideas. I actually think our ideas, once they are in reality, are always bigger and better than what we could have ever dreamed up. Because you can only kind of put together what you've seen or what has existed. It's really hard. I had a coach say, he's like, unique ideas are amazing, but if you can't tell someone you want to invest in it or somebody you want to buy it, that it's like this and this together. Right. People can't conceptualize it either, and they're not going to help you. So like when I talk about going on tour, people are like, you go on tour? I'm like, yeah, it's like how a band goes on tour, but I just teach classes. Like you have to because that helps people
conceptualize what you're doing.
But then in reality, everything ends up being a little bit better. And I think 100%. The perfectionists / procrastinators out there who are just noodling around, one of the things I feel like they're holding themselves back from is the experience of something being bigger than they could even imagine, Yeah,
well, and I think because you use two different types of people in that statement. The perfectionist has hesitation on putting anything out there until it feels absolute. And absolute is really hard in the human world. It's really hard. You know what I mean? Like we are meant to be a little messy, and that's what other messy people will be attracted to. Yeah. It's not about perfection, and that creates its own stress and strain that causes hesitation to put your real self out into the world. So I always say do it messy. Yeah. Because it just gets you started. And then this journey, even to get this concept together last year, what I did launch that didn't go anywhere, which was a learning curve, like a lesson learned, was originally when I launched Hey Kareen, it was meant to be a group coaching program where people would have access to me to just ask questions on the fly as they were in their business, right? So it was a much higher price point and the accessibility was there, but the desire to utilize that wasn't as high as I thought it might be, right? And then I tested it out with a group and it went well in the sense of the support they got, but the consistency wasn't there. Plus it was burning me out. Because imagine just getting nonstop questions from entrepreneurs because everyone's going through and then you're just repeating yourself a lot of the times. Even though I was repeating it in a recorded message to the group that they could all listen to, it still was not being captured the right way. So it had to wait until now when the technology available to us is just phenomenal that I can actually leverage everything and have the system do it for me where it's just so freeing. Like I feel like, oh my gosh, it actually is creating legacy for me. Yeah. And then it's also creating accessibility without me wasting away trying to make it happen. I'm letting the engine do its thing. So it's like you said, like I never had that picture when I first thought about the vision because I didn't know about the tech. And then finding out like this is my vision, I ideally would like this kind of impact, leveraging technology to do it even better and faster. Oh.
Well, and I think that's why like a lot of people don't want to share their ideas with people. One, there's a fear like someone's going to take it. Or there's a fear that it like, maybe it's not going to be good enough or it's not ready yet. So don't share it. But I have found, and maybe you can attest to this or not, but like when I share an idea with someone, they actually opened my eyes to all these possibilities that I didn't know about.
Exactly.
Now, for you, the tech kind of somewhere in the last year, like blew up and it was an accessible thing. But like, to your point, you said you didn't know the tech was there. Like,
didn't know it could do this.
Yeah. If you don't share your ideas, your ideas can only go as far as you know.
Exactly. It's in the limitations of what you have, right? So that's the box. But then like open the doors to other people. And now you have the world to access. Like it's just, and the expertise of others you always need to bring in and kind of bounce the ideas off of and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? What would you use it? Is there, do you find it valuable? Like I'm constantly validating any new offer, even any of your listeners who are putting together like some new offer or a new class or a different platform, et cetera. Always test it out first on a group, get that feedback, make it better. And then again and again and again, it's called continuous development. That's what in tech happens. It's also what we do personally. Yeah. You know, it's how we evolve. It's like constantly trying. Get the feedback, move on.
Brad and I were just talking about something, and I didn't mean to burst his bubble, but he's like, I want to do this thing. And I'm like, I don't think we should do it right now. Yeah. And I definitely saw, I hit a bubble. And I was like, well, personally, what we haven't done well is we haven't done some of these feedback things that we could do from specific groups of people to really understand why they're using what they're using of ours. We do a great job. Like, we've had amazing success. I want to go to another level. And another level isn't always inventing another idea. It's actually understanding why people like the current idea in their own words. Yeah. And but that requires like asking people. Yeah. And we don't always want to ask because I don't know, maybe we're afraid of what people are going to say. Or we feel like we're bothering people.
Or it shuts down your vision. It's so precious. Your vision of what you want, like, it's just such a precious, beautiful thing because it's all yours. And then as soon as you're like, hey, come look at my baby, and is my baby ugly? You know, like, you don't want that feedback, right? Yeah. Like you're kind of like, so you have to have a little bit of detachment once you are going to welcome other people in. And you also have to have the lens of, I hear your input, but you're actually not my target market, or you're not the people I need that from. So thank you for that, but I'm just going to go over here, you know? So knowing who you're doing it for is who you need to go ask feedback from. But that's so beautiful that you're like, we just don't have enough data. Yeah. So you weren't really saying no, you were just saying not right now until these things happen.
Yeah. Well, because I think like having the data from the actual people, and you hit the nail on the head. Like, we often ask family members, what do they think? And they're like, not your target market half the time. And family, like,
no. Sorry, but like my family has no clue what I actually do. Like, even to this day, I think my mom thinks I'm in HR. Like, you know what I mean? Because I got a degree back in the day on that. Like, yes, only get the feedback from your target market. Yeah. Because family comes with so much baggage too. The way they say it, how they say it, who said it, and what? Oh my God!
My dear mother-in-law gave me like 3 ideas on the phone the other day, and it was like, you know, and you're just like, and I have enough ideas first of all, and also these ideas, I don't want to help those now. Yeah, and I was like, how do I say?
Yeah, those are great ideas.
Those are great ideas.
Not for me.
Thank you. Thanks. You know, I think your daughter will kill me if I'm late on any other project. So I'm going to put that on the parking lot. But like you have to know who to ask.
Well, yeah.
And that's what I think sometimes and oftentimes, like, I hire people to be the people to ask the questions to. Like, that's why people hire you. It's like, it's like you're curating the right people to ask advice from. And then you're also having to be very particular at who you ask information from on your beautiful baby.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit though, because so we had you on several years back. Yeah. You're back now. A lot has changed. Yes. And you're one of the guests who I know understands what be it till you see it means. You knew it before this podcast 100%. Even exists. You do it all the time. Yeah. So how have you been being it till you see it these last couple of years with this evolution you've been in?
Yeah. No. So it's been interesting. The self journey is all about being true. Like, so I think since we last did our recording, I was definitely very driven in serving my clients, serving others, serving, you know, people in my life. It was all this outbound side. And about 2.5 years ago, I was like, I'm depleted. Like getting through the pandemic year. So my business skyrocketed during the pandemic because one of my consulting companies basically grew, doubled in what it was because my services were in high demand during a time where people couldn't hire full time. And so they needed experts that I have in my business to come in and do that. So I not only was like extremely busy, so the money was in the bank and I had the vision for that. And I stepped into my entrepreneurial side for it, but I neglected who I had to become to actually stand in it in a healthy way. So when I think about the be it until you see it, I had to shift my lens to make sure that I'm a multifaceted person. So I need a dynamic way of caring for myself in order to then stand in all these things that I choose to manage. And in that 2.5-year mark, I realized that I was really in this point of convincing myself. I call it a form of self-manipulation when you're sitting in convincing energy, that I was okay when I wasn't. So I had to shift my perspective completely to be like, Kareen, what is a healthy, aligned, entrepreneurial life that you want to lead? And I started to design that for myself and had to remove all the layers of the way I was showing up in life to cast a healthier vision for my businesses, for myself personally, who I was surrounding myself with, who I was in relationship with, how I was attracting clients, and I had to clean house.
Yeah.
And it was a very transformative few years because I refused to deny myself the truth of what was really going on with me and what I really wanted. And so once I stood in my truth and I was like, okay, this is what I want, then I had to stand in integrity in my action.
Yeah.
So the be it till you see it energy is how you act in it until it actually happens.
Yeah.
Right. So you have the belief, sure, you have the vision, sure, but none of it can be manifested without action.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've always been action oriented, but not with the aligned stance of, me first. It was always for everyone else.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, if I took care of me first, I can even do so much more for everyone else. So now what that then allowed me to do in that perspective. So first you have to kind of get clear on your perspective and how you treat yourself in the process to then cast these visions of like, okay, if I want to, build my mastermind and I have this now 2-day immersive I do with my clients that I freaking love. Like, to go for 2 days from end to end through my Evolve methodology with a founder, like that vision that I had for it. And I think I designed it last June. And by December, I had gone through 5 different entrepreneurial businesses and done these 2-day immersives and where their businesses are today. Like those opportunities would not have been there because I wasn't clear on the stance that I wanted prior. Yeah. Prior, it was all these like short-term stint things. And now it's like, no, I want longevity. I want to walk alongside my clients always. I want to feel that they see me evolving while I'm helping them evolve. Like I want to make sure there's this continuous growth, energy in everything I do. And sometimes that's hard to fully visualize, but you can determine the stance you want in it. And just as simple as showing up in that stance, then the right things start to attract in and are reflective in the interactions you have.
Yeah, I think like it's been fun because I get to watch on the outside too.
Yeah.
I get to be on the inside too.
You're on the inside.
I'm on the inside, but also I got to see like, and not just because the world had opened up last year. It was been open up for several years at this point. But like to watch you go, okay, the way I want this business to go, the people I want to help, they're in this room. I'm going to go in that room.
Yes.
They're in this room. I'm going to go in that room.
Yes.
And that is being it till you see it because it's not waiting for them to find you.
No.
Or until
always
you feel ready.
Yeah. No, always in action. Or pick up the phone. I would pick up the phone too, or email someone and say, hey, I'm really trying to attract these type of people. And who do you know? Mm-hmm. Like we don't do that enough, even with our own network of who we know already. Social media has been very interesting in I treat it as like, here's the behind the scenes of my life of how I'm doing things. And I'm on Instagram, most of it. That's, you see that all the time, right? But I'm more sharing my journey than and then there's some coaching moments in there. Yeah. But truly my network, it's my relationships that actually have built what I have.
Yeah.
because it's who knows me that trusts me to then recommend me.
Yeah.
So getting into those rooms, like you said, like the first time I ever joined a mastermind, I remember being so like imposter syndrome, like, am I even worthy of being in here? Because of all the qualifications that were required to get into that mastermind. And then I remember going into it and being told, okay, the only value we got out of this mastermind was meeting you. And I was like, I was worried about coming into the room and then realizing that wasn't a match. But their qualification process was so intense that I thought I had to qualify, but all these other people were let in that were not.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was this mismatch of things. But I bring that up because it's still, they all eventually, a group of them became my clients because it was like, well, I got in the room where I would attract what I was building in, and I stood in integrity in that room.
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you mean. Like one of the first masterminds I was in, the first one who walked up, she was in fitness. And so was I. And so am I. And she shared, you're supposed to brag. And so she does her brag. I'm like, I am not someone who brags. I do I'm much better bragging now, but like I'm not, this is not how I was
you're
raised.
of service.
So, yeah. And so she does her big brag. And I was like, she is such a badass. So I'm sitting there the whole time going, what am I bragging about? Like, you know, so I wasn't even listening to anyone else. After she went, I'm like, well, I'm so screwed.
Yeah.
You know, and then what's really funny is I do my brag. I sit down. The brag is also like intro who you are.
Sure.
Sit down. And then at the end of that first day, they said, okay, we want you to partner up with people to be your accountability partner. And she, the first person who went up, who intimidated me, she's like, you, I think, scare me enough that I'll get stuff done. I was like, I scare you.
You never know.
You
show up authentically,
I think
right?
that's really like the key there. You mentioned manifestation.
Yes.
And you mentioned action.
Yeah.
And something that I try, because people throw manifesting that word around a lot.
Do. It is. It's a hot word.
It's a hot word. It's like, I manifested it. Like something that will like, makes my skin crawl is when Brad and I will meet people in this entrepreneurial world and they'll say like, I say, oh, what made you move someone? Like, oh, my like intuition led me there. And I'm like, okay, great. I manifested it. I'm like, okay, you had to do something.
You did something. No, manifestation does not happen without action.
Yeah. So
otherwise it's a dream. Manifestation it's literally it's the coming to of the concept. It's the tangible result. You can't get results without action.
Yeah.
So it's just a more woo-woo way of saying, you know, I have this vision, I put goals against this vision, and now this vision came to life. Same way we run things, you manifested it. Manifestation is the whole picture.
Yeah.
It's I visualized it, I did something about it, now it's here. And the visualization is so key because that's the energy you're putting out into the world. If you do want to be more on the woo-woo side or the spiritual side or the energy-based side, right? Like you have to have a very clear vision of what it is that you want or keep visualizing it. Like every day, put energy into that vision. Be like, what does it look like now? How much juicier can it be? What else can I add to it, right? And you just sit in that. And you can sit in visualization, but if you don't do anything about it, it's not going to come. A lot of people also love to say, I can't believe this person just called me today. I was exactly thinking that I wanted this thing and I got this phone call and I got this thing and da-da-da-da. I manifested it, right? Well, you obviously had to say something about it or put an intention out there. You're still in action. Even that meditative moment is an action.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then the energy around it and how you're carrying your body and the conversations you're having and vocalizing it. Then of course it shows up for you because it's so prevalent in your mind and what you focus on, you find.
Yeah.
So it will show up.
Yeah. We've had several brain experts on the podcast who talk about like the reticular activating system.
Yeah.
At the RAS. And to me, that is the way you could spot that something happened after you thought about it. It's because your brain has been seeking it out. Because you've been visualizing it and asking, and then also taking some action to put yourself in those rooms and those spaces and those opportunities you wouldn't even necessarily notice. Or, you know, Brad and I have been in some random places where like, wow, that's so crazy that happened when we ended up making a wrong turn here. And it's like, well, no, it's not that crazy if you think about it. My brain was seeking out for this thing.
Yeah.
And the reason we noticed it on that right turn is because my brain was thinking, because my brain has been thinking about it.
But you had to say something out loud to then, for Brad to turn the vehicle to go to that destination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you just sat there and be like, oh, I thought about that thing and you just drove right past it. that's not going to manifest what you were hoping for.
Yeah.
Like there was still an action.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the brain power is definitely an energy zone and it interacts with what's around us and like calls it in, but you will not see it until you actually.
Yeah. So I have one more question for you though on this, because I meet a lot of people who are like, I don't even know what to manifest. I don't even know what my goals are.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, is it that they don't feel worthy, or is it that they are scared? Like, do you think that we don't know what our goals are, that there's an opportunity, or is it just that we get so far away that it feels like lost, like it's too far away?
I think it's a mix of all the things. I think each individual has their journey on like who they're becoming, right? And who they are today might not be who they had hoped to be once. Right. And so we generally want things out in the world because it represents a part of us that we're trying to put out there. Right. No one really wakes up and says, I want to go do this shit job today. Like that's not the desire. Right. Like you wake up and you're like, I want purpose and I want to feel desire and I want to find connection. And the human needs are still the same for all of us. I want some variety. I want some excitement, and sometimes when we get into a monotonous way of living, we convince ourselves, again, it's that same energy. We convince ourselves we're fine, that we're not looking inward as to why our vision is not clear. And I think that is the inner awakening that has to happen to say the worthiness of dreaming again, because you talked about self-worth. I think when we sit in the I don't know energy, I'm fine. If you're sitting there and you're doing a lot of shoulder shrugging in your life, right? Like there's no real excitement to the life that you've been given that is so freaking short. Like I said, time is so limited that's the shakeup I would do first, to allow yourself to realize what I have been showing up for is no longer a fit for who I am or who I desire to be. Yeah. Shake it up.
Yeah.
Shake it up and allow yourself to dream again and say, now from this stance, without all the veil of darkness of the things I've been tolerating or the things I've been convincing myself I'm okay with, how can I dream from this place? What do I want? What do I want this best version of me to have? Not the fine version. The fine version of you gets mediocre results, right? The best version of you gets you good results. The outstanding version of you will get you excellent results. Like it's really, again, that interaction of energy and like what you focus on. But I would say if anyone is sitting in that energy of self-doubt and procrastination, even like we talked about earlier, or just uncertainty of like, what do I do next? I would say do the inner work to understand what's not working right now in my life that I would like to up-level and shift,
I know you're right. I believe exactly what you're saying, because especially if the people around you are making you doubt yourself, that's not an environment for growth of any ideas.
No.
And so you do have to shake it up. Or if you can't change that situation, you do have to find a place to like park yourself during the day to at least have moments where you can have yourself be poured into. And there's so many different ways now to get poured into by people for free because of podcasts that are out there. You can just go, this person is my mentor.
Yes, no, you really can. And listen to the conversations, but then do the work to say, okay, how do I now integrate that thought that really inspired me into action in my life?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's something about absorbing it all, which is amazing. But if you're a perpetual student and not someone who takes action towards what it is that you feel you want next, it's a mismatch, right? You're going to be back in that fine shoulder shrugging situation.
Yeah.
So finding the courage to take action, and even the smallest ones, like I always say, 2 minutes a day of that new thing.
Yeah.
Then make it 4 minutes, then make it 5 minutes, then half an hour, whatever that is, and just stand in it for a little longer to realize it's a fit or not.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we also have these aspirational things. I love that person. Oh, so inspiring, so aspirational. I want to go that direction. And you try it on yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's not a fit. Like, this is not who I'm meant to be. That's great for them, not for me. So permission to move on, right?
Yeah. I love, everyone knows who's listening, I've been hobby hunting. And I really loved this hobby that I picked up at the beginning of this year. I was like, I'm going to give it 12 weeks because like I've picked it up before and I'm going to give it 12 weeks. And I was like, I really just want to do it at home because every place I have to go to, it's late at night.
Yeah,
It's
doesn't fit the
and
schedule.
so I like this, but I don't like how it's existing out there. And so it's not that I've like quit it. It's just like, it's on pause until it can be in the place I want it to be.
Convenient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like the removing excuses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like by bringing it in, then there's no longer an excuse of timing or like the mismatch of schedule or it can travel with you or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think, and I do think that's that. I love you mentioned earlier. It's like permission to change your mind.
Yeah,
is okay,
100%.
But also doing that inner work to really understand how you want to step into your power and who you want to be.
It's also a permission to fumble.
Right.
So that's the other permissioning that I tend to share, where it's like, for example, if I'm going to go do like a keynote talk. And I'm like, am I going to trip up those stairs? Like I might trip up those stairs on my way out there, or I might forget my words, or I might blank out, you know, and I can literally sit in all the fear of the what ifs that could go wrong. And I have to give myself permission to fumble because I will recover.
Yeah.
Right. We will always step back up. Like you trip, you step back up, you fall, you get up. Like there's to only focus on the negative and not the like what could happen once that happens, like what you choose to do in that moment. So I also give myself permission to fumble.
Well, our mutual friend Chelsea Pites has found that there is scientific research that people will trust people who make mistakes publicly.
Sure.
More than the perfectly curated,
100%
never
relatable.
Trips. Like, it's
relatable.
Relatable.
We all fumble. We are all human. There isn't a perfect way to do anything. It's just the right way for right now. And it can be super messy.
Yeah.
So like step into it. And it's actually quite beautiful. I personally, when I do fall, because I laugh at myself because I always think of the perspective of someone watching me falling.
Oh,
it literally is like, oh my God, if someone was standing there and saw me just took this stumble, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I have super long legs and I'm like, how am I still standing? They're doing something down there. And
you know what I mean? But imagine the perspective of someone else watching it. I don't know. I just think it's funny. So.
I walked into a pole once and I laughed so hard at myself. Because like, first I was stunned and I was like,
I know.
And how many people drove by and watched me just like walk right into that pole?
My favorite one was last summer. I was in Nantucket and I was on an electric bike and getting used to it. I'm not a bike rider because I had an accident when I was 7 that like messed up my face. And so anyway, I got on this electric bike and I'm doing this turn and this lawn service truck was supposed to go around this roundabout. And so I was gauging as if it was going to move and it didn't move. So I had to jimmy around it, ended up slamming into a parked Jeep and I like shoulder checked it, right? Like I was like, ugh, like this. And then I backed up. I was like, the car is okay. Just because I was more concerned about it was so funny. Like the things that happen when you're in the moment, you just don't know. So you just get back. I got back on the bike and I went.
That's one way to be. It's how we see it.
I know.
We could just start laughing at yourself on your trip, and you probably become someone who doesn't actually take yourself too seriously.
No, it's so when you try new things too, give it a few attempts, but allow yourself the fun of trying something new. That's like being a kid again. You know, and I don't think we do that enough either. And again, that brings the dreams back. Well, the more kid-like you are, the more playful you are. Go color, go dance, go do the things that all of a sudden what lights you up comes back to you.
I went to circus school because I live where there's a circus school. And they had this like trial thing. You could try out different circus things. And I knew for a fact I wasn't going to do trapeze. One, it was at the end and it was like, I didn't have 90 minutes. I had like 75. And I was like, there is in zero lifetime am I letting go of that thing. So I don't want to get stuck out. I know myself enough to know that's a little beyond my skill level today. But it doesn't mean it's a never. It's just not right now. So, but I'm in this circus class. It's me and 2 boys, and the boys are 7 and 11.
Yeah.
It was sometimes I was 4 years old. So their moms are there like watching them try out Lyra and watching us try out silks and watching us try out the trampolines. And I thought, trampoline, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
Yeah.
I had the best time.
Yeah.
They were doing 11-year-old stupid stuff.
Right.
And I was there like having the best time. I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
They were like trying to bounce me off the trampoline.
Course.
The moms were like, probably like, who is this? Like, what is
They're
she
like,
doing?
did we hire a nanny and forget?
Yeah. And they're like, you're supposed to like jump in this ball pit. And I was like, I don't know, guys, can you go first? Cause like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they did 7-year-old like cannonballs in there. And I was like, okay, I could do it too. Like, but I was like
So
laughing
playful.
at myself because I'm like, I am 40 in a 7-year-old's class. But it really made me, you get this dopamine high.
Yeah.
And then you're like, life is actually quite fun.
So good.
We can keep going, so we'll just have to have you back. But I want to ask where people can find you, follow you, work with you.
Sure.
So go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, well, obviously, if you want access to the new platform, it's heykareen.com and just join the wait list so that you get first to know, because it's going to hopefully come out this summer. I don't know when this episode will air, but like
probably about the same time. So
Perfect.
you'll either get on the wait list
or you'll be able to download it because it's just phenomenal. So that's heykareen.com. And then anything to work with me, truly, like the latest thing that I've launched for more in-depth strategic time that I think is a nice quick hit is that I have a 4-hour half-day strategy session that I offer now that is kareenwalsh.com/half-day. If you're interested in like a quick spurt of like, what am I doing that needs to shift in order to like achieve what I want to achieve this year in business, that's a really nice way to get started. And you just like apply there and then we'll figure out a time to work together. But truly, like if you're wanting to step into vision work and like reignite that, I would download my SLP program, which helps you go through my vision exercises and then jump into action and strategy on how to achieve it. So that's heykareen.com/SLP.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll put all those in the show notes below.
Yeah.
You've given us a lot of action steps already. So if you want to bring them back, we can. But we all have to give the bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted steps people can take to be it till they see it. Something that's like the too long. It's not that they didn't listen, but they're like, hold on.
What do I take away?
Gotta do some action. Because yes, I love, how I built this, but how the hell do you take a next step? So what do you have for us?
I mean, if you really want to step into a life of like integrity of who you're meant to become and like how to manifest it, if we want to use that word, or achieve it, or just stand in it, like have it actually be what you're proud of showing up in, I would say the best action first is to look inward and assess where are you out of integrity and see what you can do to tweak that, to make it a little bit better. Because even just that small step, and it's actually a big exercise, but in the sense of like the inner work to do and to look inward. But I feel like if you're able to do that, then you'll have a better, clearer lens on what you truly desire. So what you want to actually be becomes clearer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
it's an inner work step, but I feel like without that, everything else is just more noise.
Yeah, it's just more stuff, and like we don't always need more.
We know a lot of the how.
Yeah,
but I've been focusing a lot about the who. Who do we have to become to stand in the life and the business we want to lead?
Yeah,
and that's one of the first steps.
Yeah, you have been, and it's been helping me this year a lot because I was like, sometimes feeling stuck. But I was like, if we got to go to another level?
Yeah.
Like, I got to go to another level.
Yeah.
How do I go? Who do I need to be to this thing? And also, like, I don't even know that. I've never did what I did before now. So, like, now it's like another thing. And really, like, thinking about that who and, like, what that is and what does that look like and what does that feel like and what are the words around that? What is the schedule around that? And
what do you have to let go to create room for it? Like So the who part is more of what I've been focusing on to be it until you see it.
I love that. Yeah. That no one's ever focused on the who in over 400 episodes. So thank you, Kareen, for that. You guys, how are you going to use these tips in your life? Make sure you tag Kareen, tag the Be It Pod, let us know. And do yourself a favor, share this with a friend. If you've got that friend who's been shrugging,
a little shoulder action.
Just send this to them. You don't even have to tell them, hey, you've been shrugging a lot. You can just send it to them and then they'll hear that. Let's talk to them. We can do that for them. So thank you all so very much for being who you are, Kareen. Thank you for being you. And until next time, everyone, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network. If you want to leave us a message or a question that we might read on another episode, you can text us at +1 310 905 5534 or send a DM on Instagram at BeItPod.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is transcribed, produced, and edited by the Epic team at Diseño.co.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all of our content to our website. And finally, to Meredith Root for keeping us all on point and on time.